Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here with the 13th layout using the July hip kits. And here's some of the stuff I might be using. I actually brought in some stuff from last month, which is the Avery L Daisy pigment ink and also the clear embossing powder. And I'm thinking of using some of these pattern papers. There's the only one I'm going to end up using is this October Afternoon pattern paper here, and also a scrap of that Crate Paper Journey, which is that red pattern paper. And then I still had 4 of those mason jars from the Crate Paper Journey collection, and I thought just get them ready, and then when you're doing some layouts you'll just have them sort of at the ready. And when I get at the end of a kit like that, the type of page or what I put on my page is really determined by what I have left in the kit. So, this is layout 13. I start looking and saying, okay, what do I have left? What do I need to use up? I don't want to put any of this into my stash. When I do the killer kit, it's basically that, I have nothing left, and that's the way I like it. So by getting the jars ready, I know that as I'm doing other layouts, they'll be right there, and I'll try to use them. I actually only end up using one on this layout, and maybe I'll try to do a layout where I use multiple, like maybe 3 of them, and then they'll just be, just be used up. And I still have quite a bit of pattern paper. I'd say I have still 3 full sheets of pattern papers maybe. And so still lots of room for, making more layouts, which is awesome. The more I get out of a kit, the better. So the second thing I'm going to do is ink up that stamp set that came from the color add-on from Heidi Swap. And I put some clear embossing powder, and then I'm going to emboss it, and then I'm just going to cut around, and I'm going to end up using it on this layout. I'm just going to emboss one, and I'm just going to use it as an embellishment on the layout. So this works out really well. It's, super shiny and it's cute, and you get to make your own embellishments. And that's one thing at the end of the kit when it's done. When the kit is done, that's something that you can bring forward. And like last month, what I had done was I had used that camera and I put it on the background with some clear embossing powder, and then you put ink over top. It's really cool. And I had done it also with the template and some clear, what was it? Clear gesso, or not clear gesso. What was it? Matte medium, or heavy gel. That's what it was, heavy gel. And then it ends up acting like a resist also, and that's really cool too. So you could actually take that stamp set and just stamp on the whole background and make your own pattern paper also. So I'm going to take that little piece of scrap of red pattern paper from Crate Paper Journey, and it just happens to fit perfectly lengthwise on the photo. It only goes about 3/4 of the way, and I'm okay with that because my husband is wearing a red shirt, so it kind of just frames the left with the red, and then my husband is on the right side, so then you have the red. And then I'm going to use that October Afternoon pattern paper as the background. At one point I'm going to end up adding another layer because I find that it doesn't stand out enough against the background. Now the title of this layout is going to be Mammy, You're a Timbit. And the reason for that title, and it has nothing to do with this picture, but the reason I chose this picture is because he's got that little face that's just, that loves to tease on the picture. And he was visiting my mom for a couple weeks ago, and when I called him every night, he, for some reason, started saying, Mammy, you're a Timbit. And then I would tell him that he was a donut. And so the conversation would go on like that. And then when he talked to his pappy, he'd say, Pappy, Mammy's a Timbit. And I'd say, hey. And then he'd laugh and he'd say, Pappy, Mammy said, hey. So anyway, I just want to do a layout about how just a few months ago we could not get that kid to stay more on the phone than just a couple of minutes just to say, hi, love you, Okay, gotta go. Bye. And now, when he was there, he was on the phone for like 15 minutes, didn't want to hang up. And he was just Mr. Chatterbox, and he would tell me all about his day and all his adventures, and it was so funny. So I want to, journal about that, but especially about where he called me a Timbit. I don't even know where that came from. And the reason I put Mammy is because sometimes he calls me Nammy with an N, like Nicole, and sometimes he calls me Mammy. And I like both, so it doesn't matter to me. It's up to him when he wants to call me. And so I ink the edges with that Avery L pigment ink pad. Now I'm going to add some clear gesso to the background. So I took out the bottle, and then I think right now I'm looking for the knife, and I just spread out the clear gesso using a palette knife. And I kind of keep bringing in the bulk of my layers because I want to see, where do I want to put the gesso. I know I don't want to go too crazy with the mixed media. I basically just want to put a little bit of color to the background. At first I think I'm going to use the Avery L ink pad, but once I put it up against the pattern paper, I kind of noticed that the yellows are kind of off. And not that they were clashing, but I was looking more for more of a matching color. And that one was really pale. The Avery L Daisy is really pale. And then I'm going to add some paint to it from my stash. It's a paint dauber actually that came in a previous hip kit. And it's still not yellow enough. And what I did was I flipped it on the back side, and I'm kind of testing it there so that I don't wreck that sheet of white cardstock. White cardstock is probably the cardstock that I go through the most. Now I buy, if you want to call it in bulk, I just buy my white cardstock from Stampin' Up, and I think it comes in a package of 12. That's the biggest it comes in. And but I usually buy 2 at a time, and I go through those like crazy. But actually now Stampin' Up only sells black and white and the 12 by 12 in one color, and then the rest you have to buy it in family. But I used to buy the early espresso because it's a dark rich brown and I love it. And the craft also, I would buy it in the one color, but now I can only get white and black. But I use so much more neutral colors as the background, and I mean I still try to use some colored cardstock because I have such a huge stash, so I'm trying to work through it and use some colored cardstock once in a while. So what I ended up doing was using my Lindy Stamp Gang mist, and I put it on the packaging and just smooshed it on the background. Now I'm going to put the title on the left side of the photo, and then on that crate paper pull side chipboard sticker sheet or whatever you want to call it, there was a donut, and I didn't know where I was going to use that, and this was the perfect opportunity, so I'm going to use it here. Now this is where I decide I want to add black to my photo. So again, I don't want to cut on my new mat, and I have my old mat underneath. I gotta figure out something else. So I just kind of flip the mat over, cut around with a X-Acto knife. Now I'm going to cut down my white cardstock, and then I'm also going to mount the whole thing on the black cardstock. Now I'm just trimming around the photo, leaving a tiny border about 1/8 or smaller inch around the photo. And I'm going to mount it on there, and then I'm going to keep building the layers. Now I have to tell you guys, Sarah Swan, you did it again. She was talking about a show that she was watching on Netflix, and again I was in between shows. I didn't know what to watch. Actually, I started watching The Night Shift, and if you haven't started watching that, it's really good. But I had only watched one episode, and Sarah talked about Bloodline, which was on Netflix, and there's only one season, and I started watching it last Monday, and I'm done. It is so good. So if you haven't watched it, it's really intense. You can't do too much else but watch that if you really want to follow, because they keep going back and forth, but a really good show. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, Sarah, because now I've watched it all. So now I'm still looking for something to watch. No, I'm now currently watching The Night Shift, and it's really good. It's about army doctors that are back in civilization, and a lot of them are working at the same hospital, and it's really good. So back to the layout. Now I have, kind of know where everything I want to put down. So I'm just going to start building the layers. I did for my journaling. Again, I used a Project Life card, and I showed you the box. I got that years ago, and because you had to buy directly from Project Life before, and the Canadians had their own sort of warehouse. Anyway, the shipping was really expensive, so when I did buy, I would buy a lot. So I had bought like 6 3x4 and 6 4x6 grid packages, and but now you can get. I looked at Simon Says Stamp, and I'm sure on Amazon, and you just type in Project Life grid card, and they have actually all kinds. They have craft ones now, they have lined ones, they have all kinds, but they're perfect for journaling. And so anyway, now I'm working on the title, and I used 3 different fonts. I used the October Afternoon, which came sort of in one package. You have the bigger lettering and then the smaller. And then I used the thin alphas from Thickers that came in one of the kits to write Timbit. And I wanted the word Timbit to kind of stand out compared to the other words. And then at the top, I wanted to put, like at the end of Timbit, I wanted to put that donut. But for it to just sit there, I found it looked like it was floating. So then I took it was a 6x6 cut apart from the crepe paper pull side. And is it pull side or journey? I can't remember. Whichever paper pad that I've been using for this kit. And I just cut apart, and I kind of stuck it in behind the donut so that it made it so it had a grounding element. And then I'm also going to put a piece of washi tape. Now I wanted those tiny alphas to kind of stand out, so I'm putting some black ink around it all, and it's just, I don't even think I took the dauber and put it in the ink. I just used the blending tool from Tim Holtz, and it already had plenty of black ink on it, but I usually use a Distress Ink Black Soot, so that's what was on that dauber. Now there's a frame that came on the crepe paper pull side, and it was perfect because it had some craft and around, and then it had those little lines sort of in the center of it, and it was the same kind of lines as the 6x6 pattern paper. So I kind of put pattern paper in behind the frame because I didn't want the white to show through, and then I'm going to put the heart over top, and then that's going to be an embellishment cluster. So I'm just using my quick dry adhesive, which was put in a fine line bottle. So the fine line bottle comes empty, and then I just bought some Scotch quick dry adhesive from Michaels, and I filled up the bottle just so that you get a fine line of glue. And the fine line bottle, I got mine at Simon Says Stamp. Now that little jar was just perfect because it said Small Treasures, and I find, like I said, this layout was really not about the picture that's on the layout, but more about the story, and just because of the way he's looking like Mr. Mr. Little Bugger. That's why I chose that picture. But it's more for the story that I did this journaling page. So sometimes my pages are kind of fueled by the pictures, and sometimes it's fueled by the story. And this time it was totally for the story because I didn't want to forget that story, and I want to be able to, when he's older, we can read the story together, or if he flips through the books or the albums, he can flip through the albums. So I'm going to use some of that fine line adhesive, and I'm just going to glue the vellum heart to the frame, and then I'm going to add a couple of sequins because there was quite a bit of sequins inside the jar, but that was the only place that there was some gold, so I wanted to spread the gold a little bit out, and so I added it in the 3 different spots, and I think that's about it. Oh yes, I am going to take out my box, and I'm going to take the Heidi Swap Color Shine in Black Velvet, and I'm going to add some black splatters. And I really love, I ended up using the Lindy Stamp Gang, a yellow, and it was more like a gold, and I found that really coordinated with the background, like the pattern paper, a whole lot better than the Avery L Daisy color. So that's why I ended up going with the Lindy Stamp Gang. But I found because I added that black cardstock, I needed, for it to be a little, I wanted some black dots on there. And that's it. That's going to complete the layout. I've learned that I need to dry those dots right away because I've come back the next day and it's not dry. And that's it. The page is done. So if you're enjoying these videos, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up just to let YouTube know. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.